Welcome to our conversation today. I'm Sila.
And I'm Nicky.
And we know that debt and financial struggle are one of the biggest issues for couples and marriages. And the pandemic has only made the task of helping people struggling with their finances much more urgent. And today we have the great privilege of talking with someone who has done as much as anyone we know to help people and couples who face financial crisis. And so we're really thrilled to welcome John Kirkby to be with us today.
Welcome to our friend, Dr. John Kirkby.
That's fantastic. So nice to see you after all this time. And yeah, really great to see you looking so well.
And so great to be talking to you. And for those who don't know you, just going to give a tiny bit of background. You founded Christians Against Poverty, known as CAP. And you did that in 1996. You won multiple awards, including a CBE from Her Majesty the Queen. Your head office is in Bradford, where you are now. And over the years since 1996, you've helped 200,000 people. And that number, of course, is accelerating all the time as you've moved into more countries, now in 5 different countries where CAP is operating. And we were absolutely gripped by your book, John, nevertheless, hearing the history of CAP. Just for those who haven't read your book, nevertheless, just tell us a bit of the backstory of CAP, how you started and why you got going.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, first of all, we need to say anything that has been amazing in our journey, any transformation in my own life, any fruit of any life reached any church or community, really need to make sure that God gets all the glory, the honor and the praise. As you will hear, without him in my life, without what he's done, there will be really nothing to talk about. So I was born into a loving family. Everything was going great up until the age of 9 when my father became terminally ill. Our idyllic house basically fell apart. As a teenager, I lost the plot. I suffered from dyslexia. They thought I had special needs, really struggled with school, introduced to alcohol, and became a very lost young man. I had episodes of violence and all sorts of other things. My dad died at 18, then my mum was taken away sectioned through mental health and put in a hospital. So I was literally left on my own, just aged 18 and 9 months. And basically I had to bring myself up, still not in a great place. I got a job as a debt collector and repossession guy in the north of England where I live, and somehow managed to survive and have a reasonably successful career, got married, had 2 children. And everything looked brilliant in the early 90s, but unfortunately beneath the veneer of what looked like success was still a very broken man. At the time, I wasn't the best husband to my first wife, or in fact, the father my 2 young daughters deserved. I separated, had to move out of house, and ended up, ironically, being hounded by debt collectors as businesses failed and people left me and abandoned me. However, God had a plan, and in the middle of that, one man called Paul, who remains a great friend to this day, reached out to me and my 2 girls as we lived in just one room of a friend's house, really struggling to survive. And he showed me the love of Jesus, and my life began to turn around. He invited me to church, I found faith, and somehow over the next 4 years, God did such an amazing job in my life and in me that as I was about to marry Lizzie, my wife, I felt a calling to walk away from a really good job I had running a secured lending division. And I remember sitting down with Lizzie saying, Lizzie, I know we're getting married in 16 weeks, but I really believe God has called me to use my experience of the finance industry and my own tragic debt story to help people like me. To this day, I'm amazed that she just said, I'm marrying you, I'm not marrying your job or your income, which was a good job because I was to lose both. And yeah, in 1996, just after our honeymoon, I sat at home with a few pounds that had been donated, £10 in fact, got on my computer and started Christians Against Poverty, went out onto the streets of Bradford, met some beautiful people whose lives were devastated by debt, and we knew that this is what God has called us to. So fast track nearly 25 years, God has been very kind and gracious and generous to us. So CAP has now grown in the UK. We have 600 centres. We have over 1,000 frontline workers. We have a head office team of over 300, helping thousands upon thousands of people every year. We help over 20,000 each year. We see phenomenal transformations. We are an expression of God's gospel of hope into some of the most hopeless circumstances. I still help my own clients, and just recently I've basically seen a couple again see their lives transformed. So our message is one of great hope. Wherever you find yourself, whatever difficulties you are in financially, I will testify with all the breath in my body that there is always hope, there is always a future. Yes, there needs to be some things done, and I'm very, very grateful, guys, for you giving me this chance to share anything we've picked up along the way that helps couples and individuals find that route to a place where their finances under control, they're secure enough with their income, able to pay things, and can live life in the way that God intends us to.
John, thank you so much for sharing that extraordinary story of hope. And of course, you are not alone in that experience. And you stated in a blog very recently that 4.1 million people already in financial difficulty have seen a reduction in their income because of the coronavirus pandemic. We'd love you to be able to kind of translate those figures and help give us an idea of the scale of the problem and the situation that people are facing now with regards to financial struggles. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's overwhelming. I think it's overwhelming in many different ways. We believe, obviously, we work amongst the poorest people in society. We work with people who really have got no hope and are facing, trauma. A third of our clients are suicidal. 2/3 have missed meals. So we're working with the very poor. But I think not only will the very poor become poorer, but there's no doubt that this is going to draw and drag people who never thought they'd have financial difficulties into a place where they're going to have to start doing some really useful things like budgeting, making decisions around spending, making sure their debt doesn't get out of control. So we see literally millions of people who are going to have to get hold of their finances and have to come together and really sort out where they are and realize just how vulnerable they perhaps have been by not putting enough attention into the way they handle money. We're doing our best to increase the number of people we can help, but obviously we're not going to help 4 million people. I think it's down to a societal change, but it's individual couples who make a decision. We are going to get our finance under control, where I believe there is immense fruit, which means it's possible that people can really move forward from the challenges they face.
Now, clearly the internet has been a massive blessing to people not least during restrictions, during lockdown, keeping in touch. Indeed, that's how we're doing this interview.
Yeah.
But equally, there are aspects, presumably, of the internet that have actually created greater financial pressure for people, whether that's, I don't know, online shopping, online gambling, other things. Yeah. What are you hearing through your clients, through the people you're helping?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that it's almost where if you were in a kind of a rocky place financially, and when I mean rocky, I mean you don't have a budget, you don't know how much you get in, you don't know how much you're spending, you don't know what you're going to spend on, you haven't made any decisions about savings, about buying things, about literally living your life with your money, and millions upon millions of people never even do that. Then the vulnerability to a slight change in your circumstances. I mean, I just call it, click, buy debt. I mean, you can literally buy anything within 15 seconds, the ability to buy things without any thought as to where that money is coming from. The availability of credit is literally increasing and is enormous. So it can be very easily that you can find yourself in a difficult position financially. Of course, gambling continues to increase. People are drawn into, through often desperation, in the hope that they can solve the problem by gambling and all sorts of other stuff. So we would say it just increases the message of you don't have to live like that. You don't have to live with that nagging sense of, are we doing the right thing? Do we have enough money? Have we made the right decisions? Simple, easy steps done together as a couple, can make a fantastic difference, not only in your own life, but in your families. And of course, the better you manage the money, the more opportunity you have to use your money to bless and encourage others. So there's no losers when you manage your money well, but there are definite losers, as I know, if you don't manage your money well.
John, you mentioned couples particularly, and we know that you at CAP are absolutely down at the grassroots of coming alongside couples who have really come to the end. And in your own experience, it caused a marriage breakup. But just tell us, what are the particular pressures that debt puts on a marriage relationship or a couple relationship?
Yeah, I would say even if a couple are not in debt, the pressures can still be there. As a married couple or a couple preparing for marriage, your finances are together. They have to be together. You're a unit. You're joining together for your life. You're committing to walk life together. And the first thing is, I see couples still maintain their own independent financial, how they manage their money themselves. And always say to couples, you must put this together because you are together. Therefore, your finances need to be together. Most people even mention it in their vows, but don't quite realize it is all in. And when you come together financially, there's undoubtedly going to be differences in opinions as to, often someone is a saver, other person is a spender. Often people have different views as to the future, as to savings, as to what you buy and what you don't buy. And in the journey of bringing your finances together, however challenging it may be, what you learn as a couple to compromise, to seek wisdom together, to make joint decisions, those are truly, truly vital lessons, not only in your financial relationship, but as I know, it spins out into other aspects of your life. So bringing your finances together, realizing you will feel different about it. You could have been brought up in a different family that have a different view of money. That is okay, but you must come together. And in that coming together will be some challenges, but those challenges must be overcome to get together. And then money is something you enjoy together rather than it be something hidden where there could be guilt or shame or not really understanding, and fear lurks in all that kind of stuff. So come together, get it out in the open and make some decisions. What are you going to do with your money all together?
John, you said earlier some very simple, easy steps that people do. This is what CAP are helping. Just spell out a little bit more. What's the very first thing that a couple who hit financial crisis difficulties should do? Yeah.
And I would say for any couple, if you've not yet had any financial difficulties, these rules work wherever you find yourself, even if you're very wealthy and have no money problems. The number one thing, as we've just mentioned, is coming together, making a commitment to each other that you are going to work together on your finances. And the first thing every couple needs to do is either open an Excel spreadsheet, get a piece of paper out and a pen, or use one of the many online tools and build a budget. How much income do you have coming in? How much regular expenditure do you have going out? What are your debts? What are your savings? Get the whole thing out, get it all in front of you, and have a really good look at your finances as a couple. Are you as wealthy as you thought you were? Are you covering your expenses? Are you paying for things you don't really need? What do you do with your excess? How do you save it? How do you spend it? So beginning the process of making a budget is absolutely critical. And once you start that process, that then leads on to many, many discussions, many decisions, and coming together with a budget, not only for what you spend in your ongoing expenses, but how much are you allocating for holidays, for other things. You don't have to live a tight life financially, but you do need to live it together, and you need to organize it. I'm always staggered, and please don't misunderstand me. I understand these things happen, but I will sit down with couples who've been married 10 years and they've never sat down and talked about finance, talked about their attitude to it. That is a recipe, at the very least, for a broken relationship around money. And at the very worst, it could be a seed of splitting themselves, both financially, spiritually, and emotionally. So bring it all together, build a budget. Number one step, my number one plea would be to do that.
Now, John, that's so helpful. But you mentioned just a minute ago, shame, the word shame. And I think guilt goes with that, and secrecy, really. And I mean, we know that those things are crippling. And when it comes to money, they're particularly crippling, and they can prevent people from doing exactly what you've just advised. What would your advice be to someone within a marriage, in a couple relationship, who is really struggling because of that? How can they reach out and get help? Who do they reach out to?
Regrettably, I can speak from my own experience of what that feels like. It's really difficult to express to someone who's not been there what it's like. I remember waking up in the morning with my two little girls on camp beds next to me, and just the weight on my soul, the weight in my heart, in my head, my whole life was just overwhelmed with a sense of, oh my gosh, the mistakes I've made. Oh my gosh, how could I have been so foolish? Oh my gosh, look at the consequences for my children. Oh my gosh, look at what it's caused in people who I care for. So I want to let anybody who's watching this to let you know, you are not alone. There are hundreds of thousands, millions of people who share that weight of guilt and shame. And I think the action is the same thing that you do with any guilt or shame. You find someone who you can be honest with. It would be fantastic if that is your husband, wife, or partner, but basically someone who is trusted, who you can simply speak out and just start saying, I'm in a mess, I've made mistakes. And just that very act of bringing it into the open often is the key that begins to unlock a sense of, right, it's all out now. And again, finding and continuing, not just being relieved, but then to look at how did you get to where you got? What is the underlying problem? Is it that you've got some need to keep buying things? Is it that you've got some addictions or other problems that are causing you to spend money that you really don't have? So share that with someone. At some point, you should and you need to speak with your partner. And I would say, in the experience that we have with tens of thousands of couples, who we sit in rooms with them while one of the couple bring out 15, 20,000 pounds worth of debt that the partner has no idea about. The overwhelming sense after the initial shock is one of relief, that they knew there was something wrong and now they know what it is. And we've seen people come together and face it time and time again. So feel it, but do something about it. Speak about it, be open about it, and begin the journey. And I am a testimony of the journey, that anything and everything can be worked through, and you will be able to find a way forward. And the result of you not doing anything is more guilt, more shame, more impact in your life and those around you. So come on, let's be open, let's be honest, let's get it out.
John, thank you. And just, I'm sorry, I just want to ask John right now, because I think this is the moment to ask him. You talked about hope and that there's always hope and you don't give up hope. You personify that. But tell us an up-to-date story of a couple who have come through from a place of crisis to a place of hope in their finances.
I still look after my own clients. I've always been, wanting to continue to see the impact of what we do before my very eyes. So I was working with a couple who basically found themselves in a desperate situation. The guy had a stroke. They're actually at the moment stranded in another country. And unfortunately, they had a very, very severe financial problem with their home. The mortgage company had no compassion. They were trapped. He was ill, and they literally did not know where to go. They didn't know what to do. They were in total trauma. They're actually people that we know. On hearing their problem, I just said, look, please let me in. Let me come and help you. They found it a bit hard because, like many people, there is a little bit of pride, and you need humility to ask someone to help you. You have to be humble enough to know I can't sort it out. And that's what they did. They said, John, we can't do this. We need you. And it was really interesting that something for me was not difficult, which was contacting the building society, getting the authorities, standing up on their behalf, speaking to court, making sure that their case was heard well. We've been able to have a fantastic impact. they knew from the very moment they opened up to me that they were not alone, that somebody was with them. And yeah, they are secure now that nothing is going to happen over the next few months. The Building Society and courts have suspended their action. They're now able to concentrate on Phil's recovery until they can get back to the UK. So it's an ongoing story, but even from the initial sense of me making a few phone calls, standing alongside them and making sure they're not on their own, the difference has been amazing. And if I can, I'll just share one other story of real hope. So this was a lady who actually was a hairdresser, cutting my son's hair when he was 3, so he's 19. So we're talking 16 years ago. And she opened up and shared with me eventually when she asked me what I did of her problems. And we stepped in. She went debt-free after 18 months. She found faith. She got a new community in the church. She's married now. She's expecting her first baby. They're in a home that is secure. All their bills are paid. They have no debt, and their life has been transformed through that moment 16 years ago when she said, I need help. That humility opens the door to transformation. Without it, there is no transformation, both within and in your circumstances. So open, honest, tell people. And if you are in trouble, make sure you find someone who offers free debt counselling who can help you. If it's not CAP, there are other organisations in all countries that can help. So don't suffer alone. Seek humility, open up, express how need you are, and allow someone else to help you.
John, can I ask you one final question? You work through hundreds, thousands of churches, and we've
around the UK,
and now in other countries. You inspire people, and just listening to you now, the passion that you feel for this work comes through. This is a work that you do from your heart, and of course from your own experience as well. If you had to sum up for us the difference your own Christian faith makes in doing this work, what would you say?
Without my faith, I would never have started. Because my faith, in essence, turned me from being selfish and everything be about me. Slowly, by his grace, I discovered that it really isn't about me. Jesus' compassion for others slowly flooded into my life, and my whole area of focus went from me, what can I get, to how can I help others? And that is something I believe only God could have done. So in starting it, without him, I would never have done it. I would have never met Lizzie. We would have never married. She wouldn't have married selfish John. She married a slightly broken yet compassionate John. We'd never have been together. So we would never have started, because the faith that I got in my Christian faith, that God was with me and we could do something, even though we had no money and we had nothing. There was nothing, but there was Jesus and there was his hope and his compassion. So I would never, ever have started Christians Against Poverty without my faith and the impact God's had on me. But secondly, I'd have never got to where we got through. For the first 13 years, we didn't get paid on time. We went through, as people know from our book, nevertheless, we went through months and months, years and years upon years of need, of not getting paid on time. This is ourselves. But every time we were struggling, every time when we had to leave our own home, when we were often had less money than the clients we were helping, something in us said that God was with us, that we must carry on, that it was worth it. He provided for us. We've always had enough to eat. We've always had somewhere to live. He's done an amazing job. So I would never have got through those early years without a faith and belief that God is with me. And as I look now, after nearly 25 years, it's my faith in Jesus Christ. It's my belief that he has not finished with Johnny Boy, that he has got a future hope for me to continue with that transformation that happened nearly 30 years ago when he entered my life and I went from being all about me to being somewhat about others. And that transformation continues to this day. And the blessing I live in, those 2 little girls who were in that room with me have now grown up. Our family is completely united. I have 3 grandchildren. I'm not worried about my mortgage. I've got enough food in the fridge. I've got a wife who loves me and is with me and for me and serves alongside me. Why would I ever want to think that God's finished with us? So it's him. As I said at the beginning, he needs to get, for me, all the honor, glory, and worship. I'm just a lad from Bradford, a broken lad from Bradford, who was dealt a difficult hand in his life. Yet Jesus Christ said, I will take this man, and together let's go and help some people. And I must admit, it has gone a little bit out of hand over the last 24 years, but all glory to God. So my faith is who I am. It's what I do. It's what gets me up in the morning. And it's what gives me a passion for people. I don't want people to have to go through what I went through. No, no, no. You don't have to. You don't have to. So, yeah.
John Kirkby, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you, John. It's wonderful to have heard all that wisdom today.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.